When Jamie Hand and I produced the documentary From the Marsh back in 2019, we did over 6 hours of interviews with some of the best decoy carvers in the country and boiled it down to less than 30 minutes. We put away the footage that we didn't use, and even at that time I knew we had some real treasure tucked away, and that bothered me. What we would like to do now is to present footage from those first interviews, which were taken in the shops of the carvers amid their tools and paints. We hope that you will find it worthwhile to listen to the wit and wisdom of one carver at a time.
To say that Pete Peterson is a master carver is an understatement. Captain Pete, or Uncle Pete, as he is affectionately known, has spent a lifetime mastering his craft. A lot of thought and natural talent goes into the design and construction and painting of his decoys. The result being a true working decoy in the style of the Eastern Shore of Virginia. Though Pete's style is so distinctly his own, his work is easily recognizable as his, whether in an auction catalog or from across a room at a decoy show. Like most master decoy makers, Pete is quick to share his knowledge and techniques with the many younger carvers who make the pilgrimage to Pete Town in Capeville, Virginia. From country boy to college boy to Coast Guard officer to inspector in industry, Pete has never lost his passion for building ducks, as he would say. At 79 years of age, Pete is out in the shop most days, not worrying about taking orders, but carving what he wants to carve.
They're a lot better carvers. There's plenty of better carvers, but none of them having a better time than I am. I'm Pete Peterson in Pete Town, Virginia.
Where were you born and raised?
I was in Maryland. Moved here just after I got out of the service and been living here ever since. Joined the Coast Guard to stay out of Vietnam. That's when it was really starting to get nasty over there, and I was not cut out for that. I was not going to run to Canada, so I joined the Coast Guard.
And where did you wind up?
Spent 3 years on a weather ship in the middle of the North Atlantic. Not continuous, but 3 years off and on a weather ship in the middle of the North Atlantic.
Did you enjoy it?
It was, no, I can't say that it was gravy duty, but I used to say, nobody's shooting at me. The company I worked for sent me to Bayshore Concrete on a job, and I knew within 15 minutes that I was going to stay here. I had found my home. And it's still here. We're still loving it. Would not go anywhere else. Okay.
How did you get started carving?
Okay. Well, I grew up on the Potomac River, and I could see the grown men hunting ducks as a schoolboy, and I said, that's what I want to do when I get older. And so I started chopping decoys out of wood from the beach and made 100 by the time I was old enough to drive a car. And it just never stopped. When I moved, one of the first 3 people I met was Kenny Marshall. And Kenny carved. He was all from Hog Island descent. And he carved and duck hunting. We all hunted ducks. And me and him were just sort of, yeah, this is how we do it. And we just worked in just like, 6 plus 6 equals 36. And we just kind of, worked together and inspired each other. And anyway, that was we working together all day long, and continuously and carved together. And so anyway, he inspired me. We inspired each other, I guess you could say. Plus Corbin Reed, he was back in Chincoteague. He got and Cobb and Roy Bull. Roy Bull, the famous early collector, lived 2 miles down the road, and he took me into the shop or his collection. Anything you want, take it home and study it for a week. Just like checking books out of a library. Take it home and study it for a week. And that's what I would do. And he was and introduced me to a lot of real decoy people. Bill Purnell, Bobby Richardson, Summers Headley, and they were all, influential. I mean, they were critics, but they were constructive critics. And they helped me a great deal to make me be what I am today. Anyway, one of the neighbors' father was a dentist from the western part of the state, paid me $10 for a duck, and I bought a German tree brand knife with it. Still have it in my pocket. I said, well, isn't this something? Now, anyway, this things wouldn't roll along, just having a good old time.
And what's carving mean to you? Carving and paint. I know you're a master painter and a master carver. What's carving mean to you, if you summed it up in a few sentences?
Yeah, I don't have the right words for that. I'm just having a good old time. You know, working with wood, working with hands, and doing what I love to do. Well, I'm just not comfortable working in a spotless environment like a hospital or a home. I'm afraid everything I do, I'm going to make a mess and get hollered at and get punched in the nose. I'm just more comfortable where I can just make a mess and walk away from it and not get hollered at. Well, anyway, my ex-wife used to tell me that I love my filth, and she's probably right. Yeah, I don't worry about when the chips fly, just let them go. I don't worry about it. When they start getting my way, then I clean them up, just enough to to work comfortably in. When I get overcome by them, it's like a tide a high water tide of chips. Then I have to clean them up, make room for another batch. Oh, they all have their beautiful points. And some, just some are flashier and some are shapelier, but I just love them all. All of nature. They're all, just so special in their own kind of way. And there's unmatched beauty in it all.
And Jim, there's something that Pete may elaborate on or not, but I can tell you this, being a long-time carver myself, there's certain people, there's a lot of great carvers out there, like Pete said, but there's certain carvers that over time they develop their own style, some more than others, some to the point where they have a recognizable style that you can spot a mile away. I'll give you an example. Hurley Conklin, George Strunk, and Pete Peterson. You can spot a Captain Pete duck a mile away in a catalog. You know what I mean? There's a lot of talented artists. Everybody you can't spot. Your work is so distinct. It's done in this Eastern Shore tradition, but they're so distinct that anybody that knows decoys can spot it. And George Strunk's Delaware River slicks are the same way. I could say the same about Bob. Most part for Bob White, you can spot his. And Hurley Conklin, he came out with a style nothing like anybody else made, and you were right there with him in that respect. But how do you feel about that?
Well, I think every carver, just like school children, making ABCs just like their first grade teacher. And 15 years later, no two hands alike. Some hands are prettier than others. Some are very legible, some are illegible, but there's no two hands alike, but they start out making the same ABCs. And I guess I'm no different.
Can you describe your style?
My style, that's all I can tell you. Been under the influence of so many carvers, the Ward brothers, Corbin Reed, Madison Mitchell, Charlie Joyner, the Cobbs, and the Smith Island carvers, and the Hog Island carvers. Just kind of a combination of it all.
Mm-hmm. I could describe his style as a sleek style decoy, sleek lines with a stylized paint patterns that have a lot of thought that's going into them. The paint, a lot of thought behind his paint, but it's a simplified, stylized pattern, which I like a traditional decoy has, which I happen to like and do myself.
Well, painting, my painting is like my Uncle Roger Peterson, of bird pictures. And they got the key elements, the arrow pointing white, or, the yellow patch here. And I just try to accentuate the key points of a duck's plumage. Simple terms. Just it's not, like Gracie says, not how much detail you add, it's how much you can get by without and still instantly know what kind of duck it is. So very bare bones painting. Most of what I make are just going right on the shelf. Some people could take them off a shelf and gun with them and then put them back on the shelf. But primarily these, what I'm making now, are just for decorative, I can't say decorative purposes, but in collectible purposes, viewing purposes.
And why do you make them then?
Why
do you carve decoys?
Because I love it. Well, still having a good time, just having a good time.
Okay, it's not necessarily the money.
No, I'm making beer money. That's about it. Never tried to make a living at it. Just having a good time, and be just as independent. If I want to make something, I'll make it. On order, that doesn't mean anything. Half a dozen times when I get a big long order list, I would just throw it in the stove, start over. I tell people that I'm unreliable about orders. Matter of fact, I generally don't take or won't take orders now.
He makes what he wants.
Mm-hmm. How many decoys have you made in your life?
I would say probably around 8,000. When I'm really rolling, make 200 a year for 20 years. 8,000.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite of all of those that you've made?
Whatever one I'm working on right then.
Okay.
And some pieces of wood are a lot more friendly than others. Sometimes you get wood with knots, or with close to a knot or it gets hard, it gets ornery. And some pieces of wood are sweeter than others.
Amen.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
What's your artistic philosophy?
To me, this is not art, it's a craft. And I'm simply a craftsman working in wood. Not an artist. I get mad when people call me that, like I'm a hippie or, a deadbeat kind of fellow. No, I'm just a craftsman. Instead of build houses, build chairs, or whatever, build boats, building decoys. It's just a craft.
It's a functional tool. You're making a thing of beauty, but it's a functional tool first and foremost.
Well, to me, I just think too that a decoy is like a symbol of the hunt, of the quarry, like cavemen making all their cave paintings, and this is just a tribute to nature, and it'll look good in the house, and look good in the water, or and there are not many things like that.
Pete, all the times I've been in your shop, you can't come in your shop without noticing the boards with significant sayings that have made an impression on you and you want to share with others. That's a sign of the philosopher that you are, the good old boy philosopher.
Well, when you're carving or painting, part of your brain is fully concentrated on what your hands are doing, and part of it is free to wander and ponder all sorts of things that have nothing to do with the duck or painting. Just kind of wanders the world and speculating on things, philosophizing, or whatever you want to call it.
Philosophical bent about you. You can't help but think about all kinds of things while you're working.
Yeah,
especially after you master your trade, you don't have to concentrate on what you're doing so much. You know what you're doing. It's second nature.
It's a routine. It's when your hands are working by a routine, and part of your brain is just, got time off. you know, idle hands, and you get into all kinds of creative thinking.
Do you find that when you talk to other decoy carvers that they're the same? They think some of the same thoughts.
Well, I guess that's part of that is birds of a feather. You know, most carvers I get just right away feel comfortable with, just like Jamie and George Strunk, and Cameron and Grayson. You know, just because I know they're the same kind of like kindred spirit.
Jerry.
Oh yeah,
a young one.
Oh yeah, Jerry. And, yeah, but it's just birds of a feather, and we just kind of naturally gravitate toward each other. And you know right away, and we got talking on the same channel, the same frequency or whatever. We know what we're talking, you know, with all on the same channel.
Jerry Towton is a young man. He's about 40, 43 maybe, but I've known him for 10 years or something, and he is just like us. And he's a thought. I should have added him to that list. He's a cerebral, thoughtful carver. You know.
Yeah. And Kenny.
What are the characteristics of decoy carvers? The personality carver.
Good looking usually.
You got to talk to an outsider to get that sort of an answer for that question. Man, if I know.
There's a certain amount of good humor.
Yep. Good humor is part of it.
There's a certain hospitality.
Oh well, sure. To your friends, come on in.
There's a willingness to take time.
Yeah, because I've never, because all my deals was starting out with all the carvers were older. None of them ever said, "Get out of here." All said, "Come on in. I'll show you what I do." That's one. Well, the basic tools start with a hatchet, just like caveman, and the next is what's called a shaving horse. That's a bench with a clamp fast, and with a drawing knife do the shaping, and with a spoke shave do the finish shaping. That's it.
How long have you had your tools?
Ooh, some of them I got the first hatchet I ever used up there. I still got that. Most of them I wear out. I don't lose them anymore, but I wear them out.
Mm-hmm. Do you like working with old tools?
I like working with good tools, and most tools are old. There's different, how do you explain it, Jamie? A good tool's a requirement. Some are better than others.
Like the old timers will tell you, a dull tool cut you before a sharp tool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, dull tools are dangerous. Not the sharp ones. Every time I cut myself with a dull knife, I gotta push hard, too hard, and something gives way, and it usually winds up being my flesh.
Cameron told us a nice story about his spoke shave. He had a spoke shave for 20 years that Grayson had given him, and he broke it. And then he went online and bought a spoke shave from 43, something like that.
A wood one.
Old wood one.
And he said that's English steel. It was made in England.
Sheffield steel.
Yeah, he said that's so much better than the old Stanley that he had used all those years that Grayson gave him. But he loved it.
Look, the Stanley makes a good tool, but the cutting edges are not worth a hoot. Hock, Hock, H-O-C-K. You ever use him?
No.
Oh my God, Jay. Woodcraft has them. They're made of the steel is just for holding an edge. Taking an edge and not taking an edge. Not there's harder steel, but the hawk blades will take an edge like you. Ooh, boy. And they make irons, plain irons, and spoke shave irons. Oh boy. Anyway, I throw the old Stanley 151. That's my sweetheart. And a hawk blade. That is a winner.
I've had my spoke shave for over 40 years. It's a Kunz, made in Germany, not expensive, K-U-N-Z, Kunz, and straight, no adjustable, no just one wing nut to adjust it. And boy, Hurley Conklin taught me that. He said, when you can hear your spoke shave whistle and it's sharp. Whoosh, 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 whoosh.
He's right. Jerry was talking about Jamie, and I says, how he met you at the Ward Foundation and Irish Steve and all that. I says, well, Jerry, is he a Yankee? He said, yeah, certified Yankee, but a good one. And I said, well, I'd never heard of that. I'd never heard of that before. But he said, he's a good one. And Jerry was right.
Why do you have two drill knives up there?
Because I'm going to wear the hollow ground out, and I'll have a spare ready to go. So, I always, buy just one at a time.
Can't you just sharpen it? Can't you just sharpen it?
Well, you can hone it, but when the hollow ground is gone, the hollow ground,
right.
when that's worn flat, she's had it. And you got to reground the hollow ground and put a fresh hollow ground in it, and nobody in the world that I know of have found will do that with an old draw knife. It's got to be their draw knife, or they won't touch it. Mm-hmm. And all the ones I'm using now are made in England, and I don't know how to send them back to them, if they will sharpen them or whatever. Cheaper just buy another one. I was a hunter. That's what started making decoys for. But then the year Elvis Presley died, I had two geese that I raised from that size, right out of the nest. Both came to a tragic end, and along with Elvis, and that's when I quit hunting. Because I missed those geese. I loved them. I loved them dearly, just like a dog. And that's when I quit hunting. Well, when my daughter was small, 4 years old, long in there, we had a sandbox, and when she'd be out there making sand castles and doing children's things, the geese, Tiger and Fang, those were the names, would lay right on either side of that sandbox and protect her from anything, anybody, any dog. Nobody got close to her except me. I was the only person they trusted.